us, Billy, for you and me, so you can always talk to Grandma, even when she's not here. Anytime.
Can I talk to Grandma now?
Good. Go ahead. Hello.
Hello.
Is there somebody who wants to talk to Grandma?
It's me.
Who are you?
It's me, Billy.
You're listening to the Twilight Pwn. Meet Fred and John, your weekly hosts. You're visiting the Twilight Pwn. Just sit back and think of Rod Serling. You're entering the Twilight Pwn.
Welcome. My name's John.
It changes
I'm joined by my...
changes the character of the intro. Welcome. Glad you're here with us today. It's kind of the NPR
Stay a
Twilight
while.
Pwn. That was our first user. Why do I say user?
A user. They need their fix.
Yeah, our first junkie submitted jingle. That was our first listener submitted jingle. Thank you to Ashley for concocting that sweet melancholy jingle to get the show off this week. I'm kind of hoping the floodgates open up and people send us like 80s rap jingles and all sorts of things. But yeah, John, how's it going? I feel like we're totally off our game. How are you doing this week?
Pretty good. Or why are we off our game? Oh, just with the
We haven't said our catchphrase yet.
Third most popular. People don't like us. Twilight Zone.
This is a bit of a digression, but I feel like there's so many new Twilight Zone podcasts.
Third suddenly sounds kind of impressive when it's like 3 out of 15 or so. It's like pretty good.
Earlier on in our game, I was like a little bit hesitant to be like, yeah, I don't want to mention them in case they, get a bite of our cherry. But like now I kind of feel like we're like elder statesmen in this game. So I feel a little bit more okay shouting them out on Twitter.
Did we like make jokes about making money on this too much? Like, did people seem to think that this was
I think people
It's not exactly a growth industry.
Yeah.
But...
People misread our pledge drive bragging. So yeah, before we hit record, you were talking about some quote unquote reading you've been doing.
Well, yeah, with political season in full swing, I try not to get involved until at least summer, but we don't talk very much about it. But things have been cray, and so I've gotten the political bug. So I, for one reason or another, decided to finally read Bill Clinton's autobiography.
I love how
kind
it's
of in like a low lever back of my mind thing for like a decade.
It's very true to you. It's kind of like a passive aggressive engagement with politics.
Totally.
It's not like going to volunteer or like learning about the candidates. It's like reading about someone who was president 30 years ago.
So Fred, we were having this discussion.
Yes,
so I listen to audiobooks a good deal.
Yeah.
Check out your local libraries. A lot of times you can just download audiobooks straight from the internet. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, this is a particularly long audiobook. Fred, I guess, is less versed in the audiobook world, but I asked him how long he thought the audiobook was.
Yes.
Fred, what was your opening bid?
Yeah, my opening.
This is a very Price is Right strategy, maybe.
My opening gambit was 10 hours.
It's a smart for the don't want to go over play.
Yeah. I got a big scoff.
Yes.
And then listeners,
I
I
was
don't know
disgusted.
the actual number, so let's hear it.
So everyone write in. I'm about to spoil it. So this book was so long, they actually broke it up into 2 parts. And published it into 2 pieces for the paperback.
Yeah.
But if you add it all together, I believe it's approximately 50 hours.
Wow. Is Bill Clinton reading it, or?
No, he reads the prologue and I think the postscript, but they found someone else who has kind of an Arkansas accent to do the heavy lifting.
It'd be really impressive if it was just like Daryl Hammond doing his Clinton the whole way.
Well, now we've alienated, probably half our audience who so angry I'm not reading the Bob Dole biography. But
yeah, exactly. We do like to weigh in on politics. It's just really outdated politics. At some point, we do sometimes like to talk about the Twilight Zone. This week, we've got another videotaped episode. What is it, John?
We are discussing Long Distance Call. This is a 2nd season episode. It's the 58th of the production run. It aired originally on March 31st, 1961.
As must be obvious, this is a house hovered over by Mr. Death, that omnipresent player to the 3rd and final act of every life. And it's been said, and probably rightfully so, that what follows this life is one of the unfathomable mysteries, an area of darkness which we the living reserve for the dead. Or so it is said. For in a moment, a child will try to cross that bridge which separates light and shadow. And of course, he must take the only known route, that indistinct highway, through the region we call the Twilight Zone.
This, listen, indistinct highway jumped out at me. Sounds kind of like a 90s band.
It's like a Bruce Springsteen line.
Yeah,
it's very evocative.
Kind of like a rejected Bruce Springsteen line.
Yeah, he's actually a little bit, he's kind of
I've been riding down an indistinct highway. Maybe not. Maybe I'll keep going on that one. And we will keep going with our Serling-style intros that everyone appreciates and are copyrighted and trademarked to our Twilight Zone podcast. So don't try and steal it this bit.
Now, if you have your patented Serling outros, there's nothing we can do about that.
Yeah. All right, here we go. The cake has been baked, the candles have been lit, the grandmother has been medicated, and it's go time on little Billy's birthday. When presents are unwrapped, he receives the gift all 5-year-old boys yearn for: a telephone, allowing him to play delightful childhood games like On Hold with Verizon, phone tag with your primary care provider, and dial 0 to speak to his primary service representative. And oh yes, there's one other little game he plays with this tiny telephonic toy. It's called Chitty Chat with Gram in Hell. So gather ye rosebuds while ye may, little Billy, for tomorrow there's years and years of therapy in the Twilight Zone. Man, I've been flubbing left and right.
What was primary service
I
provider?
just kind of was reading the last sentence. I don't know.
It was just a little too, the words were a
The
little
word
too
primary
similar.
kept popping up.
Well, it's the primary season, Fred.
Hey-o.
This politics is just infecting us.
Thanks for the save. All right, you're up.
Like any loving grandmother, Grandma Bales wants little more than to dote on her adorable grandson Billy, spoil him with chocolate chip ice cream cones and plastic telephones, and repeatedly remind him of her impending demise, preferably at a birthday party or t-ball game. And when most Grammys go, they go for good, but not Grammy Bales. She and Billy can keep the party going with the help of the latest Samsung LG 4T Dead, pinging off the cell towers located just outside the Best Buy in the Twilight Zone.
A lot of inside baseball on that one there. People love serial references inside of their Twilight Zone intros. I did enjoy the image of the granny being cheering on Billy during a t-ball game and good swing, Billy, I'll die soon. Definitely an aside. But did you play t-ball when you were growing up?
I don't recall really playing.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't play organized t-ball, but I didn't really play organized. As might not shock you, might shock the listeners who've never seen me, but didn't play a lot of organized sports growing up. You'll appreciate this. The only organized sport I ever played, during schooling years was my mom signed me up for soccer at one point.
Oh.
And I had to play for a little bit when I was 5 or 6. Hated it. Quit. Never did it again.
Played through gritted teeth, no doubt. I'm surprised with your build that you weren't a defensive lineman.
Yeah, there were a lot of people who thought the shot put would have kind of been my sport, basically. Powerlifting. There were always people trying to get me into it, but I didn't want it, the glory, the trophies.
No,
I just did it in my basement covered in flour.
So this is a second season episode of the show. Check it out before we get going, because we are about to spoil it for sure. So you got Hulu, you got Netflix, you can buy the Blu-rays and DVDs. I think you can stream it on Amazon too. So the plot gets rolling on a birthday party for little Billy Mooney. Mm-hmm. It's a happy family dressed for a business meeting. Ma and Pa in his suit and foreign grandma. It's kind of like a sweet scene. They're all getting ready for this little birthday party at the dining room table. But there's this kind of underlying tension that comes out really early because
it's a Billy Mooney birthday.
Yes.
And they know the Twilight Zone game. Even though that episode hasn't aired yet, they just know.
Or even indeed been written, but yes. They know they're dealing with Billy Mooney, so something creepy is going to happen.
Oh, Mother, why don't you let Sil cut the cake, huh?
You think I'm too old to cut the cake, huh? When I am that old, you get the shovel and dig the hole.
Shovel!
Yes, my angel. Oh.
I really like Billy Mooney in this. Somehow between that shovel line and the line in the intro we played where he's like, "It's me, Billy." He just sounds really genuinely like a kid.
Yeah.
Less like a kid actor and Yeah, that's kind of how kids are. They're weird sometimes the way they say stuff.
I knew you were going to grab that. I get the shovel and you dig the hole. It's just such a weird, it's like, is that some song in the country that Grandma is from, maybe? Like, is that some sort of weird, like, socialist song that she used to sing in Hungary?
It's like one of their cheerful Romanian burial songs.
Exactly. I will say that my dad, who was like a real, like, communist rabble-rouser in the 60s and 70s, used to sing like old communist like worker songs or when I was growing up. And so like I remember the first time I was like singing this song, it's like Avanti popolo alla riscossa, which is like some sort of Italian communist song. And like my friend was like, what is that? I'm like, you don't know Avanti popolo? I had a strange childhood.
I'm surprised it was so melodic. I'd feel like they would ration out melodies or something.
Yeah, right.
Like you can only have B flats today.
To each according to their melodic abilities. Anyway.
Grammy, not content to just leave it at that. She really needs to bring the party down a bit.
I like to say something. Could I say something?
Sure.
My little Billy. My wonderful little boy. He gave me life again. An old woman, good for nothing no more but to complain. He held out his hands to me and made me alive.
Why are you crying, Grandma?
I don't know, my angel. Maybe because I won't be here with you for very long.
Happy birthday! Time for the piñata!
Party clown's like, oh, is now a good time?
Yeah, he's upset enough. Bring in the clown.
Yeah. It's like this wild oscillation between like, grandma to like, okay. Intense affection to intense depression. It's obviously a bummer, but Billy doesn't seem too perturbed because up next it's presents time. And Grandma's gotten Billy his very own telephone, which apparently he can use to talk to her as long as she's alive, which won't be very much longer.
We kind of glossed over some of the other presents he got. Did you notice Billy got kind of a sweet gat?
No, did he?
Yeah, that was among his toys, and then Grammy was like, here's what I want you to open. And I just was really hoping it'd be like, it's an Israeli AR-15.
Yeah, I didn't see that he got a Glock. I did think for sure that no question that he would not be excited about the telephone because he's not quite to the age yet where kids feel the need to pretend to like something they don't like. You know what I mean? And after you get like a toy gun, a telephone is definitely a bit of a letdown.
Maybe like telephones weren't so ubiquitous that like a toy telephone could still seem somewhat novel to a kid. But
I'm not saying he wouldn't like it. It's just like he's not going to go like ape ass over telephone after opening up like a super soaker, you know?
Right.
I will say I've like sat through like a few children's birthday parties with like clenched teeth, like hoping the child will like my present because there's just nothing worse than being like publicly shamed by a child for giving them a book. You know what I mean? But anyway, they don't get too much time to play with this sweet little phone because Grandma gets a case of old womanitis and has to go upstairs. And we get Serling's intro at this point, which is not handled all that well. Like, he's in the dining room, but there's like a long shot of him kind of like walking out from behind the table. It's got like kind of like a let me get on my cue feeling to it.
Yeah, and they don't do an actual whip pan or something. Like, there's a clear cut to get over there, so it's okay. And he's got kind of this like, because he's coming out of the dining room, he's got this like, I guess I'll clean up in here vibe to like, don't worry, I'll get it, I guess.
Yeah, not one of his best. Although, you know, after Dust, I think everything is a letdown.
Yeah.
Anyway, in the next scene, the family doctor has arrived and is tending to Grandma's oldness. Right. This is a bit of a small note, but did you notice how the dad had an extremely weird tie?
That's funny. I've got the exact same note. It's a very busy tie, and I wanted to pose the question to you, Fred. I'm glad you've already been thinking about this. Do you think, is he like the crazy tie guy at the office? Or do you think it's Billy's birthday, so he's still going to wear a suit, obviously, but he'll wear his, craziest tie to show that he likes this young Billy fellow?
Yeah. I mean, it's my son's 5th birthday party. I'm not a farmer. I'm going to wear a suit. The tie is weird because it's not just loud. It's like if you look closely in freeze frame and enhance on it, which I did, it's like little pictures. It's like little vignettes running up and down the tie. And And like for some reason they looked kind of like religious to me? Question mark?
Because he seems like a pretty straight arrow in this episode. I'm going to guess that this was a bit of costume design of like, well, he's wearing a suit, but maybe we'll put something that's a little fun because it's a party. Yeah. It's like he's wearing his wackiest cufflinks.
Exactly. Little Billy will appreciate. Yeah, I don't know. So the family goes up to see Grandma, and she's got some deeply comforting, very normal, healthy things to say about the family dynamic.
Who are you?
I'm your son, Chris. Your son.
No. My son was taken away from me by a woman. This is my son now. Billy. My son.
Happy birthday! All right. Here comes the pony rides.
Oh, God. This is little Billy, his wheels turning. That's messed up. I will say, I credit to the episode for going there. It's dark, And this, the scene is literally very darkly lit. I think that's one of the advantages of videotape, actually, is that you can film a lot darker of a room, and this scene has almost like kind of like a gothic quality. You just kind of see like this like vague outline of Grandma's face as she's lying in bed and saying these very cheerful things.
We've joked before about how maybe my full attention isn't dedicated every single episode when I've been preparing.
Yeah.
Or, the circumstances sometimes aren't the best. This one, just with timing, I had to take my car in to get repaired, and I knew I could do it this way, and I know it's not ideal, and I've seen this one before, so I was rewatching it on my phone in a waiting room, waiting for my car to get fixed. And the only reason I'm admitting to all this, which, I know my opinion is worthless at this point, but I will say it's the only episode I've watched of the videos where it wasn't as overwhelmingly disappointing because I was watching it on like a 4-inch screen. It was like, couldn't tell as much.
Just how Serling intended.
So if you really want to enjoy these episodes, the smallest screen possible. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's also ideal if you do it while you're ready to pick up your car.
I'd recommend a foreign car, but, any will do.
At the very end of this scene, Grandma actually does indeed pass away. Her last words being, I have no son, or whatever.
Right.
Whatever it was. Whatever charming bon mot it was. She dies here, and then we cut to the next scene. The next scene opens in kind of a cool way, I think, which is just that Billy is in the backyard, and he's looking down into the koi pond, or the fish pond, whatever they've got. If it was a different episode, it would just be like a kid's horsing around, but there's something kind of ominous about the way he's just like precariously up there, looking down into the murky waters. I thought it was a great way to kind of like set an ominous tone.
Yeah, Billy's reenacting his favorite scene from Chinatown. I think, the grandma's comments are really kind of put him in a mindset.
Back in the house, Mom and Dad are worried about Billy, but their worries are completely assuaged when she goes upstairs and she finds Billy on the telephone.
Hey, why don't you come over and play? Is it cold there? I had Winnie's for lunch. What did you have? Maybe they'll fix my tricycle.
Billy? Who are you talking to?
Grandma, she's lonesome. She wanted to know if I can come stay with her. Can I, Mama? Can I?
That was a good cut into commercial break. We don't always know when there's good ones. I'd be on the edge of my seat. I'd want to know what's next.
And indeed, what is next is that the parents are just getting back from a hot 50s date. The dad's got his date tied on gray,
Do whatever it takes to get the fires lit,
Yeah, exactly. Electric gray. They arrive back at home, and apparently Now, I say hashtag babysitter because this actress is just like the most 50s teen babysitter actress you could possibly find. She's just got, it's like a blonde ponytail and like a hoop skirt, and she's like, gee, Mr. Blah. I was like, Perfect. Nailed the babysitter. It's not what I meant. Anyway.
Whoa, yeah.
Sorry, moving along. There's also a strange gentleman who has a tale to tell. Apparently, he's very nervous and jittery because he almost hit Billy in the street with his car, which is something apparently that he, quote unquote, never does. This becomes justified later, but like as I was watching it this time, I was like, if I almost hit a kid with my car, I would not wait around like a couple hours to let the parents know.
Not to let the parents know, wait around for a couple hours to browbeat the parents about how you almost made me hit your kid, you son of a... Yeah. Why don't you try a little real discipline?
It's like, yeah, I don't know. There's a reason for it later, but it's a little bit weird. Like, he's very much like, your child ran onto the street and I almost killed him. Right. Like, wait, who's mad at who in this situation? I forget. Anyway, the mom goes up to check on Billy, and this is another great little beat. She looks at him, and he's napping, but then as she closes the door, he opens his eyes. It's not like a plot reason for that to be in there, that he's pretending to nap, but it just goes to show that he's, like, keeping things from his parents.
Yeah,
you know?
creepy.
Back downstairs, the would-be Billy killer is saying that when he grabbed Billy and gave him the third degree about why he almost made me kill him, apparently Billy had something kind of disturbing to say, which was that someone told him to run out into the street. Mom and Dad do play kind of the role of like good cop, bad cop in this next scene, because they run up to Billy's room to kind of shake him down, and Mom really gives him like the listen up, you little squirt kind of treatment. She's like, who are you talking to on that phone of yours? What do you know? Like, I mean, you know, she's upset, obviously.
Yeah, at this point, the parents are concerned. They've got a warrant. They're putting a wire on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. And Billy kind of, does he come clean about it? Or?
No, he's no snitch.
Yeah, exactly. Snitches get stitches. Snitches get stitches, little Billy.
Grammy's got connections in hell, Fred. No.
But anyway, the mom goes off, and Dad has some real 50s man talk with little Billy. He's like, you know, Billy, when we said Grandma went away, we were lying. She's dead. But listen, don't talk to her on the phone, because just don't do it, okay? Good night. And here's a tie to hold on to if you're ever having emotion. Yeah. Not the most comforting dad talk. It's also not the most effective dad talk, because when he leaves, we kind of pan in on the door, and we hear some whispered confidences said through the door. So Billy is clearly not buying Dad's talk. Next up, Dad's enjoying kind of a hard-ass goodnight smoke. Like he's kind of looking out the window smoking and contemplating on what his life has become.
It's very noir parenting, you know?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
He was a nice
Spade was my father.
Like a muffin. 5 feet nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
A smile that just wouldn't quit.
A face like a hammer. Anyway, Dad's kind of like doing some dime store Freudian analysis of his mom.
She had 2 children before me. She lost them both. She just couldn't let go. I was all she had.
Except for Billy.
But Billy was me again. Chance to go back, to pretend all those other years never happened.
It's about me, honey. This episode is clearly about me.
I'm smoking a cigarette, honey. Can't you tell? I don't know. I did like that backstory for the grandma, though. I enjoyed it. I also, the fact that she's, you know, got an accent of some kind, I don't know why, but like, we're dipping into some personal territory here, but my grandmother sounded very much like
I was
that
about
woman.
to say
She's
something, but then
German.
I didn't know if it would sound rude.
No. I mean, I called her my Oma. She was German, and she sounded a lot like that woman. But I think maybe more beyond that personal connection, I do think it just gives it like this sense of this woman who maybe came here from another country and has had a hard life.
And how did the kids die? Exactly. You know, it kind of.
Yeah, exactly. Like it sets up a, you know.
There's
cool
backstory,
character.
and he is kind of expositioning us, but he's still like leaving threads unexplained that, you know, the watcher can kind of fill in. Did you notice they have a goodnight kiss? I thought it was a little too passionate. For the whole, my mom just died, my son seems to possibly be suicidal. He really just lays one on. I guess it's part of that whole parenting noir thing.
Come here and get a lump of sugar.
Yeah, basically.
Now I'm kind of imagining your home life.
Well,
come here. Receive your face touch. Good night.
I'm just saying, I think, you know, maybe the actor here was like, this is my one shot. I'm going
there
for
are
it.
some noises off style romance going on. But anyway, they go to bed, and later that night, Mom wakes up to the sound of something going on in Billy's room, and apparently she can hear him through the door talking to Grandma, recapping an episode of TMNT with her. Mom just rushes in and straight up grabs the phone out of little Billy's hand,
rude,
and she's listening in, and she's terrified because when the dad runs in to see what this is all about, Mom says that she could hear, quote unquote, Grandma breathing on the phone. Her old woman breath. Billy, meanwhile, rushes downstairs away from this scene, and I don't know if we actually hear a sound effect or anything, but he's jumped into
this
the koi
was.
pond.
I mean, granted, I was watching on an inch wide screen, but
in a bathroom
while trying to pay my bill and drive my car away. But this was really confusing. I did go back and rewatch it on the big screen because I could kind of fill in what they were trying to convey, and I think there's some trivia that might explain this a little better, but you really don't see what's happening at all, so it was a little confusing what they were trying to convey. You kind of see the koi pond and them going but
and the dad jumps in too.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe we shouldn't really get into the minutia of this, but I did find it somewhat unrealistic that a child could jump into a koi pond. He's only in there for 3 or 4 seconds.
I did have that note of doctors or monsters listen to the show. What do you think? How long would it take?
I don't know.
I just feel
unless Billy,
a kid would probably just try. Even if they're actively trying, I feel like they just end up gulping down water in that few seconds, and I don't know, just probably throw up.
This is listeners, welcome. Our 5-minute discussion of child suicide. Okay. Thank you, Ashley. I'm sorry that this is the episode that gets that treatment. The paramedics have arrived to try and revive little Billy with his little adventure. Right. And Mom, at this point, is convinced that the grandma is trying to take him to the other side. This is maybe kind of off topic given the circumstances, but did you notice how the paramedics had really cool uniforms?
No.
They look kind of like beatnik medics.
Let me pull it up.
Load it up.
1 second. It's uber casual. Yeah. Big buttons, but kind of black, open throat shirt.
Yeah, it's kind of like hitting the club outfit. Yeah, I don't know. I also enjoy how one of them consults with the dad in this moment. He says he's oh, when the doctor gets here, he'll take care of little Billy and we'll give you something for your wife.
Right.
It's just what? Oh, her woman pills to cure her having emotions.
That was just standard health care back then, Fred.
Anything happens in the family, let's heavily sedate the wife.
Well, they do say, the things are not looking very good for Billy, but I felt we were kind of getting some very classic TZ, if he makes it until midnight, he'll have the power to manipulate reality with his mind.
Yeah.
But otherwise, not looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole taking care of Billy thing, it's a little vague because it's kind of if a kid just got water in his lungs, they'd pump it out and they'd know right away.
Kind of in or out. Yeah. Maybe he got hypothermia in that. Maybe they chill their koi
3 seconds in a Southern Californian pool. Yeah, maybe. The dad sort of maybe against his better, manlier, 50s-ier instincts decides to go upstairs, and he goes into Billy's room and picks up the telephone and starts talking into it. But Grandma isn't there, so he leaves a message.
Mother, if you can hear me, listen. You said you loved Billy. At his birthday, you picked him up and you hugged him. And you said he gave you life again. If you really love Billy, give him back. He's only 5. He hasn't even started. He doesn't know anything about going to school. Or girlfriends. Or wearing long pants. Even pitching a baseball. He's hardly been out of this room. Out of this house.
There's a whole world he hasn't even touched.
Yeah, I think this is another classic Twilight Zone escalation issue of like, never had a girl, never did this. He hasn't worn long pants. Like, well, that's on you, Dad. Like,
when Billy gets to that stage, he's gonna be like, "Really? This is what I was supposed to be looking forward to." It's a nice speech. I mean, to the episode's credit, you've got a grown man, and not just a grown man, but like a grown like 50s man in a power gray suit, and he's talking into a plastic telephone. Like, it could be very, very goofy, but it's not.
Yeah.
So you know, kudos.
Did you notice that Billy's got kind of an intense ass carpet?
No. You want to email me?
Yeah, sure.
Whoa, yeah. Billy does have sort of an absurd carpet. It's got like a very intense, like abstract clown print.
Yes.
That's kind of like arranged in a weird like nexus of power that I could imagine Billy sort of sitting in the middle
right,
of.
There's like a pentaclown feel to it.
Yes. Yeah, it does. Let's definitely put that on the Tumblr. Yeah. Anyway, so at the end of this heartfelt speech, there's some noise coming from downstairs. Dad rushes down, and apparently Billy has made it, and he's come back to life.
Yeah, apparently he just needed a new alternator. He's all better.
Change of oil, and he's good as new. Then we get Serling's outro as the happy family celebrates their son being alive.
A toy telephone, an act of faith, a set of improbable circumstances all combined to probe a mystery, to fathom a depth, to send a facet of light into a dark after region, to be believed or disbelieved, depending on your frame of reference. A fact or a fantasy, a substance or a shadow, but all of it very much a part of the Twilight Zone.
So yeah, that's the episode. Thanks, Rod, for that one. Just kind of random words tossed together there. So what'd you think?
You know, I liked it. It's good. It moves along at a good pace. For some reason, I had it in my head that this was a Matheson episode. I don't know why. I just remembered it being. I think I think the reason I had confusion is I think he wrote a short story called Long Distance Call that they made in a Twilight Zone episode, and I think they maybe Night Call. They just renamed it.
Night Call was that one. I mean, it's not too dissimilar.
Yeah,
it's like got a grandma talking to someone who, you know.
Right. So for some reason I thought this was a Matheson episode, and it's not, but it's clearly not a Serling episode, and it's not. It's a Beaumont and Bill Idelson wrote it, but like there's something, and that's not to denigrate like, oh, Serling couldn't write a good episode or something, but just like
no.
Something about it, the way it moves, it just doesn't feel Serling. It feels like a Matheson or a Beaumont. And when I heard, you know, Beaumont was involved, it made more sense.
It lacks the Serling dialogue, but I think also maybe it's a little darker than the average Serling story. Like, I have a hard time imagining Serling conjuring up like an evil grandma.
That's the Beaumont, I think. Yeah, the kid suicide is something I just can't envision him doing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Serling would go dark, but it was about, like, society. It wasn't about, like, you know, people. So I think the episode is very smart not to let you actually, like, hear Grandma from beyond the grave. I mean, obviously the episode is saying that, you know, the grandma is talking to Billy. It's, you know, but the fact that we never hear an adult hear her voice kind of gives you this sense of like, well, it could have just all been in their heads. It like very strongly implies this metaphysical thing happening, but it doesn't outright show it to you. And I think there's something really cool about that. Like, you know, the episode would have been just tonally totally different if Grandma was like, do it, Billy, do it, you know?
So that's a good point, and I think it's handled subtly enough. Just it being the show The Twilight Zone, I never questioned for a second that Billy was actually talking to the mom or that it could be in his head in some weird way. But I think that is a good way you can view it. I guess because there's this scene where the mom says she thinks she heard the grandma on the other line.
Yeah, but, you know,
but she doesn't say, but she doesn't actually hear the words, right? She could be worked up and...
Yeah, you can. I mean, she is a woman, John, so, you know.
Well, she hadn't had her pill yet.
I think also, like It's a Good Life, the you know, one of the other episodes with Billy Mooney where he's, you know, the child who has the power to make his thoughts come true. It's like you take something sort of fairly normal, like in that case it's a sort of whimsical, capricious child, and in this case it's like a grandmother who like really loves her grandson, and then you just like push it one level farther and you give it like a metaphysical dimension, and you have a great Twilight Zone episode. I really like these episodes that take like a normal, like very human, very family type relationship and then just like make it weird. I think it's like all the more disturbing because of that. I also like how this episode is just made with all the tools of like a 50s sitcom. Like it's just like a suburban house and like, you know, actors in gray suits and a telephone toy, but it's really creepy, you know?
Yeah, well, and it's more like a, you know, drama than, you know, your average sitcom, but it's a...
Sure, yeah.
I don't want to say like Pat or anything, but like an expected scenario that you could envision, like kid has to learn about death and, you know, how are they going to cope with it and what does it mean? And in the end, you know, your normal course of events, the kid's sad and they cry and they come to some understanding and they, you know, go get ice cream at the end and everything's okay and, you know, grandma's happy. But yeah, they take this into a super weird dark place, which is
well, I guess I also
cool
I just mean
do,
like in the pure like the setting and the characters, you know what I mean? Like it's not like Nightmare at 20,000 Feet where you've got like an actual monster. I mean, I like Nightmare at 20,000 Feet too, but I guess what I'm just saying is there's no crazy special effects. It's very simply constructed, but it's, I think, very, very creepy.
Maybe there's some thematic connections we can make. You were kind of pointing out the ones with Night Call and I don't know. Are there other ones that deal with death and people on the other side, like that relationship as much?
I mean, Night Call was the main one, and it's kind of ironic because in Night Call it was the alive person who was lonely and like wanted to talk to her dead husband, and in this one it's the dead person who's lonely who wants to talk to her grandson. I mean, I don't know if there's anything interesting in that dynamic, but it goes both ways, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm also kind of thinking about Nothing in the Dark just because that's kind of another episode dealing with the prospect of death and the kind of well, I think that maybe what it boils down to is just there's an old lady in that one, but just again kind of I think that's a Serling pen and that's, you know, old lady.
No, that was George Clayton Johnson. That was George Clayton
Johnson.
Yeah,
you're right.
I hate to tell you, but I'm afraid this time you pulled a boner.
It's rude to pull a boner around all these grandmas.
But a much more sentimental, kind of upward-looking take on everything. So, having a Grammy death, that's pretty dark here. It's just a nice juxtaposition.
You get the feeling that Grandma in this case was not led to the afterworld by Robert Redford being like, look, there's a light. You know, she's not going quietly.
What we doing next?
Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Yeah. Mark Scott, Siegfried, Mark Grams Jr., Siegfried and Grams, and IMDb.
The film Poltergeist 2: The Other Side shows a scene in which Carol Ann receives a call from her grandmother the moment that she passes away. So Spielberg just couldn't stop ripping TZ in the Poltergeist world, I guess. Mark Scott Zickry's The Twilight Zone Companion does a pretty good job of comparing. I guess there was a original draft of the final speech. Well, just to kind of back up even further, this episode was written by William Idelson, and I believe he'd submitted it before Richard Matheson had kind of put it forth, kind of vouched for him, and it got rejected, and then Beaumont came in and did a polish, and they were able to get it on, but apparently they were filming, and Serling didn't like the final monologue, and so they went upstairs and rewrote it kind of on the fly and came up with the final speech. So I won't take all of Zickry's thunder, but if you check out his book, you can see how it definitely improved. It was a little more dad centric, and they just shifted the focus to more Billy centric.
The episode definitely has kind of like a twisty turny backstory. It was like submitted as a short story and then adapted and blah blah blah. Bill Idelson in Martin Graham's books talks about how like he was really getting going in show business. Just this was before he really had many screen credits to his name, so he kind of was just like, sometimes you get through the door, like they got to screw you or something like that. So I think like, you know, he was willing to let this, you know, story be changed a lot to get a credit. Martin Grams also points out that a lot of the cues in this episode are taken from the episode The Lonely, the first season episode about the guy stranded on a meteor with the robot. And it's appropriate because it's like the grandmother is lonely, you know, and she's reaching out through an abyss to try and make a contact. So it makes sense. And I kind of wonder, like, I should read Reba Wisner's book about music in the Twilight Zone again to check if that was deliberate. But it's a cool little moment.
Philip Abbott played Chris Bales. He was also in The Parallel. Bill Mumy played Billy Bales. He was also in Praise of Pip and It's a Good Life.
Closes out the Mumy oeuvre.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like It's a Good Life has got to be Bill Mumy's best episode. But this is a really good little boy performance. And in Praise of Pip, he really is, in a weird way, like one of the best Twilight. You know, he's in 3 episodes and they're all great. So it's kind of like cool.
Yeah, definitely. And he, you know, It's hard to be a good child actor.
Yeah.
And he comes off like a real idiosyncratic child, so credit to him.
Yeah.
Jenny Maxwell played Shirley. Kind of dark trivia, she was the babysitter. Both Jenny and her husband, Irvin Roeder, were gunned down during a robbery in June 1981.
Ooh, that is dark.
There you go. Lou Brown played the fireman. He was also in Back There, A Thing About Machines, and Seventh is Made Up of Phantoms. Arch Johnson played one of the other firemen. He was also in Showdown with Rance McGrew and Static. Written by Charles Beaumont and William Idelson, directed by James Sheldon. We still actually have one more episode of his to watch, so can't really go through the list yet. And that brings us to the
Inevitable.
MST3K.
So we like to find connections between Mystery Science Theater 3000 and the Twilight Zone. It's been a while, I feel like. What do we got this week, John?
good old Bill Idelson. In addition to being a writer, he was also an actor for quite a while. He was an actor in the Twilight Zone episode A World of Difference. I don't know. I feel like maybe we've met one or two people who both acted and wrote an episode. He might be the only one. I don't remember.
I think he's the only one.
He might be. He also wrote a first season episode of Mystery Science Theater entitled The Crawling Hand, or the movie that was featured in it anyway.
Cool.
There you go.
I'm wondering whether we maybe use that one on A World of His Own or World of Difference or whatever it
World
was.
of Difference.
But, we'll play the boner clip
Probably,
next week.
but that was a long time ago, so no way I could go and look over my papers.
Indeed. Cool. So what does IMDb say review-wise?
IMDb gives this episode a 7.7.
Kind of in the middle.
I think that's a little higher than just smack in the middle. But yeah, middling. Little middle. It's like a B- maybe.
Yeah. This may be a bit of a shocker, but this is actually one of my favorite episodes of The Twilight Zone. The only real thing against it is video in my mind, and I feel like it's not the episode's fault. It's like a budgeting constraint. I think it's like really cleverly takes a normal domestic scenario and makes it creepy. I think it's like very dark in a fun way. It like moves along at a nice clip and has a satisfying resolution. And this is personal and weird, but like the grandma just reminds me of my own grandma, and I don't know, like hopefully my grandma did love me a lot. It's gonna get twitchy if I go any further down that road, but I don't know. So for me this is a 10.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I do not disagree that it's a very good episode. I think the acting is uniformly very solid. The grandma bit, she really comes on strong, but they don't really have a lot of time to tease out the nuance of the relationship between Billy and the grandma and the dad, etc. So it's all very well done. It's well written. Like you say, all the beats make sense and it resolves well. And the dad gets a good dramatic monologue at the end. I don't really have like anything to really point to as like knocking it down. I will say like maybe it didn't connect with me quite as personally. In the video, it just stinks, but it is, it didn't affect me as much, but I feel like I'm just grasping for reasons why I don't think it's a 10. For me, 10s are like the best. And I think it's just very good, but it's not like one of my absolute favorites. I'd say it's like in the 8 range, maybe like an 8+.
I think 10 is like an episode that it's like really, really good and also has kind of something special that like really connects with you on some level. So maybe this one doesn't quite have it. I do like the concept of calling this episode Billy and the Grandma instead of Long Distance Call. That was something you said in there. But cool. All right, let's call it an episode. I gave it a coveted 10, and you came through with an 8, was it, or 8+?
I'm gonna stick with an 8.
Stick with an 8. Harsh. Well, next week we will do another episode of The Twilight Zone. Stay tuned to our social media channels, and we'll let you know what it is. In the meantime, there's lots of ways to get in touch with us. John, what are they?
You can send us an email at twilightpwn@gmail.com. That's spelled PWN. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at twilightpwn. You can check out our website, twilightpwn.tumblr.com. You can like us on Facebook. You could listen to us on any kind of podcatcher app. And if you're over in iTunes, if you leave us a rating or review, we really appreciate those. We love reading them. So thank you very much.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like any question I ask in this little bit is just going to get twitchy. So maybe we should just close with a nice shout out to all the grandmas, and in my case, omas out there who maybe love their grandsons just the right amount.
All right, I'll talk to you later, Fred.
Talk to you next week. Bye.